Hi and welcome to this fifth and final part of the My External Environment Development tutorials. This part will start where we left off from the last part. So we'll continue texturing the buildings, so we're going to finish up the textures, then move on to refining the models, and then doing the rendering and compositing inside Photoshop. So first let's start with the building on the right. So we'll create some destruction on the texture that we've already done in the last part. So let's open Photoshop. I've already loaded up the texture. As of this moment it's just too plain looking, and here is the texture that we use to cover up and make some cracks and wear and tear on the building facade. So the way to extract the texture we're going to use is first let's go to edit, adjustments, and let's select the levels, or you can hit Ctrl and L, the shortcut. Now try to move the sliders around to crush the blacks and the whites, so we have more of a grayscale and heavy contrast image from which we can extract the texture. So moving the sliders around. For every texture it will be a different amount. So I hit OK and open the levels again. And that is reasonably nice. So I desaturated the texture. You can do that by going again to adjustments and desaturate, or going to Ctrl Shift and U. Now I'm taking a black brush. I'm going to delete those parts that I want to be extracted from the texture, because you can see there are a lot of white spots that are in the texture that won't be extracted if I don't paint over them. And also I'm going to do the opposite thing. I'm going to select the white color and remove some things that I don't want to be extracted, like this sign. So now I'm going to select all of this and copy it, and then I'm going to create a new mask for the main layer, and I'm going to go to the channels and paste the black and white image into the mask. So this way, if we remove all the layers and leave only that with the mask, you can see that the texture is now extracted. Only we need to invert the mask with Ctrl and I. Now I hit Ctrl and A to select all, and then Ctrl Shift and C to copy merge everything and then paste it into the building's texture. So I'm just looking where to position the texture. You can see where the door of the building is. So I'm going to copy the texture so we can have a backup. So first we're going to create the little cracks between the corner of the building. So I'm trying to position it right there. Just scale it down so the scale matches the one of the building, the underneath texture. So again, using the levels just to brighten up the texture and match it more precisely with the one underneath. I'm just going to turn off the texture underneath so I can see better. And now with the clone tool, I'm just going to copy some of the texture around, and also now with the select tool I'm just going to move this part so it matches with the other ones. So again, with the clone tool I'm just looking to paint some more texture, just to fill in the whole corner of the building. And I'm just going to remove some unnecessary parts. And now with the erase tool I'm just using a grunge brush. You can always use the default chalk brush. Just going to remove some parts of the texture, some hard edges. It's always nice to remove the hard edges of the texture, even if they are not too much visible. So now I'm going to turn on the texture underneath of the main building, and I'm going to save the texture and try it out inside Maya. So save it as a target, replace the texture, and remember to save it as a 32-bit per channel, 32-bit target. So let's hold right click and go to the material properties, and let's reload the texture under the color attribute. Just hit reload and wait for the texture, and I'm going to turn on the textures inside the viewport, see what's the outcome. And you can see now that that the corner of the building has this nice variation and some cracks. So now I'm just going to try to render the scene to see how it looks. So let's render from the render camera. And you can see that it's much better than just a plain texture. It's always better to apply some wear and tear to your textures. It really depends on the environment, but most of the time you should make sure that it looks like used texture. So I'm just copying this texture so I can apply it to the other corner of the building, but this time, because the texture is separated, I need to separate the texture itself into parts. Also, I'm just flipping the texture so I can create a little bit more variation. Now using the clone tool to make the exact same thing, so the texture doesn't look copied. So with Ctrl Shift and J, I'm going to extract this piece of the texture. But okay, let's back up a little bit just to remove some of them, because it's a little bit too big thing. I'm going to remove those edges on the side, and now I'm going to cut the texture in half. So this part, we place it right next to that edge. Zoom in as much as you need just to place it correctly. I'm using the arrow keys on the keyboard. That seems correct. So the next thing I'm going to do is just take the selection tool and cut this top part of the both of the textures. So this way I know where to put the next one. So I'm deleting the top part of the textures, and now taking the second one, or this one, the second one, and put it on the other side of the texture. So because I've cut the texture on the top, I know where exactly to put it. Again, zooming in just to place it more correctly. And now merging the both textures together. Again, just removing some parts of the texture, just to create again a little bit more variation, and not just it's not good for the whole corner to be like peeled off and destroyed. So I'm just removing some of the parts. I'm going to test the texture. Again, save it, and going inside of Maya and reloading the texture. Going to the material attributes and just wait for the texture to refresh. And here is the texture. It's much more subtle than the one in the corner. Probably will get back and probably refine the other one too, because it's just a little bit bigger, I think. Let's first finish the main part of the texturing.